The Hidden One. The Mercian Gallery was at its most dazzling tonight, filled with a hum of elegant voices, the clinking of crystal glasses, and the gentle shuffle of designer heels against marble floors. The chandeliers cast a golden glow over the room, illuminating priceless art that few truly appreciated beyond its market value. I adjusted the last nameplate, ensuring that every small detail was perfect. That was my role, the quiet assistant, invisible yet indispensable. My black dress was simple, professional but unremarkable, letting me blend into the scene as I always did. Sophia Elend. I turned quickly to see Madame Vestra, the gallery director, gliding toward me with effortless grace, her heels clicking softly against the polished marble floor. Her dark eyes scanned the room, assessing, calculating. Behind her, as always, was Naira, the other assistant, the one who was noticed, the one who belonged here in a way I never would. Madame Vestra came to a stop in front of me, her lips pressing together in consideration. For a moment, her gaze lingered on me, appraising, as if weighing a decision in her mind. "There's been a mix-up with the collector's list," she said, her voice even, but laced with the faintest trace of exasperation. "I need someone to handle it immediately." She hesitated, her eyes flickering to me again, then trailing over my simple black dress, my modest shoes, the way my hair was pulled back without any particular effort. My posture was attentive, expectant, and for a brief second, I saw something shift in her expression, perhaps an impulse to entrust me with the task. But then, just as quickly, the hesitation was gone. Her lips curled ever so slightly in a knowing smile, one of those rare moments where condescension was hidden beneath a thin veil of politeness. "Naira," she said instead, the decision made in an instant. "Go handle it." I felt the weight of the dismissal before it was even spoken, the slight but unmistakable shift in her gaze. "Sophia Elend, you," she continued, turning her attention back to me, her tone light but impersonal. "Just make sure the champagne is flowing." As if that was where I belonged, assisting, supporting, invisible. Naira smirked before walking off, already whispering something to another gallery staffer, their amusement unmistakable. I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat, nodding quickly. "Of course," I murmured, "be grateful. That's what my father always said. Be grateful for the job you have, the security you were given, the roof over your head." But why did it feel like something inside me was being off? I was making my way past a row of sculptures when I heard the quiet shift in the looked up. Alexander Valmont had entered. I had never seen him in person before, but there was no mistaking him. Broad-shouldered, effortlessly confident, sharp-eyed. He had the kind of presence that people turn toward, not because he demanded it, but because he simply expected it. And beside him, perfectly poised in a deep emerald gown, was Catherine Veyrith, the ideal fiancée. Stunning, composed, with a quiet, powerful grace that made her the perfect match for a man like him. A woman raised in privilege, molded to fit seamlessly into the Valmont family legacy. I dropped my gaze quickly. I had nothing to do with people like them. Moving through the crowd, I overheard a conversation near one of the larger paintings. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the words cut too sharply to ignore. "Alexander," a deep voice said, rich with amusement. Ambassador Duval, an art patron with influence I couldn't even begin to comprehend. "You're wasting yourself. I saw the case you took last month. A pro bono case. Really?" Alexander exhaled, unimpressed. "Some things are worth fighting for." Catherine smoothed a hand over his arm, her voice gentle but firm. "And some things are distractions, Alexander." Duval chuckled. "Exactly, you'll see, boy. Some people are simply meant to stay where they are." I stilled. It wasn't about me, but it was about me. I kept moving, but something lingered in my chest, a sharpness, an ache. Later in the evening, I was refilling glasses when I felt a hand at my lower back, not aggressive, not violent, but invasive. I froze. Ambassador Duval. He leaned in slightly, his voice quiet, but laced with entitlement. "You're a lovely one," he murmured. "Too bad you weren't born into better circumstances." My grip tightened around the tray. I knew the rules. Women like me were silent, polite, invisible. You smiled, you stepped away, you said nothing, but something inside me snapped. I turned, my voice steady, but my chest burning. I'd rather be born with nothing and still have my dignity, Ambassador. The air shifted. Around us, people heard. There was a second, a charged, terrifying second, where I knew I had just destroyed myself. Ambassador Duval pulled back slightly, amusement fading into something colder, crueler. "You'll regret that, girl." His voice was smooth, but the promise of consequence was unmistakable. And then Alexander stepped in. "Are you really just going to stand there?" My stomach dropped. No, no, no. I hadn't wanted anyone to step in. I hadn't needed it. I had already made a mistake, already sealed my fate. But then Alexander moved. Without hesitation, he turned to Duval, his voice calm, steely, unwavering. "You're the one who just made a mistake." Silence, dead silence. Duval chuckled, but it wasn't real. "Oh? And what mistake is that?" Alexander's gaze was sharp, steady. "Do I really need to explain?" My breath caught. I expected Alexander to apologize on my behalf, to smooth it over like every other powerful man would. But instead, he was standing beside me. And then Duval's expression darkened. Slowly, deliberately, he straightened his cuffs. "This will cost you, Alexander," he said quietly. "You should have let it go." He turned, wanting to disappear into the crowd, his shadow stretching long beneath the golden chandeliers. A feel of uncertainty rippled through the gathering, the weight of his words lingering like a memory of a nightmare. But something inside me refused to let it end here. I clenched my fists, breath uneven, but my heart steady. "No." The word left my lips before I had fully realized it. Alexander turned toward me, his brows furrowing in silent curiosity. Some guests glanced our way, but no one dared intervene. Duval was untouchable, or so he thought. I stepped forward, closing the distance between us. "Ambassador," I said, voice smooth but unwavering, "I believe you misunderstand the situation." Duval stopped. Slowly, he turned back, his expression painted in amusement, as if he were watching a child try to play in a world that was not hers. "Do I?" he said, chuckling as he glanced around, ensuring that he still had an audience. "And what, pray tell, have I misunderstood?" I felt Alexander's presence beside me, solid and unmoving, but this was not his fight to finish. I took another step, lifting my chin. "You believe you're untouchable," I said, the fire in my chest spreading to my voice. "That power and wealth make you immune to consequences." His smile did not fade, but something flickered behind his eyes. "I have no idea what you're talking about." I let my lips curl slightly, mirroring the calculated ease he had perfected for years. "An influential man like you," I said, voice light but sharp as glass, "must know how delicate reputations can be." I tilted my head. "You wouldn't want it to get out that you've been, let's say, indiscreet, indecent in the public. A young woman, a public scene. and a high-profile witness like Alexander Valmont. His expression twitched. "You wouldn't dare," he muttered, voice low. I took another step forward, now close enough to see the veins tighten in his jaw. "I wouldn't have to," I whispered. "Rumors have a way of growing. By the time you deny them, people will have already decided what's true." Silence. For the first time that evening, Ambassador Duval looked genuinely unsettled. His lips parted, ready to speak, to threaten, to regain control, but he hesitated. Alexander impressed but silent. He did not interfere, nor did he step in to save me. He simply let me handle it. Smart man. Finally, Duval exhaled slowly, straightening his cuffs as if shaking off invisible dust. He forced a smile and inclined his head. "Well played," he murmured. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." With that, he turned and disappeared into the crowd. The moment he was gone, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The room was silent, the guests pretending they hadn't been watching every second of it. Then slowly, conversation resumed, laughter returned, the world spun forward once more. I turned back to Alexander, who was studying me. "You didn't need my help," he finally said, voice edged with something unfamiliar. Respect, admiration. "No, I didn't," I admitted, meeting his gaze without hesitation. "But I'm glad you stood beside me." A rare smile ghosted across his lips. He dipped his head just slightly. "Likewise." And for the first time, I wasn't sure who I was supposed to be anymore.